Morning, everybody. I hope you're all doing well and find yourself in high spirits. Today, I want to talk a little bit about leadership and my experience with it and what I think it looks like. So, I was just watching a video and of quotes, and it was Confucius quotes, and I saw one that said, "A man who moves mountains begins so by moving small stones," and that made me think of making this video. So this is my experience. So I belong to you know, um, this large group of people that were all working on um, policies to make the world a better place. And every year there were holiday parties, and usually these were always planned. The fundraising, everything was always done by people in management level positions. And it was time intensive. And I think managers were always assigned this role because they were thought of as being able to lead teams of people. They had experience managing groups of people, and that's what it took to carry this out. And so one day I said, this is pretty labor intensive. I'm a little nobody. And you're using these people who have a lot of other responsibilities to do this. Let me try. And they were told, all right, you could do it. And that was the first time that management had never been put in charge of these efforts. And so, I took over that job. And initially, I think I had a lot of people that liked me and would help me because they knew me, they were my friends, and they were supporting me. But it still took a lot more people to carry this out. And I made up the difference by, I was the first one there. I was often setting things up alone. The event would happen, people would enjoy it, and then everybody was gone. I'd get kudos, and then I would be by myself cleaning up, doing the work that nobody wanted to do, basically, to make sure it was a successful event. And it went on like that for a while. Sometimes I would feel like, fuck, man, everybody has fun and enjoys it and tells me how great I'm doing, but no one offers the help. And I kept doing it. And then I read somewhere that, leadership is you keep doing for others until they notice you doing for them, appreciate it, and then want to help you. And that's exactly what happened. People started saying, hey, you don't got to do this by yourself. Let me help here. Let me help there. And eventually it got to the point where I was just calling shots. Like, I wasn't doing anything. There were teams of people. Hey, do you want us to do it like this? Do you want us to do it like that? And as much as I could, I would try to empower them to make their own decisions. And even if I disagreed and it wasn't harmful to the overall endeavor, we would go with it. It was about empowering them to things they're good at, and just having the confidence to do it. And so those things that I had learned actually played out where I was doing it all alone, initially. And towards the end, I just had this huge team of people that were doing it and just happy to support and be a part of it. And the other thing was that, previous to me taking it over, my understanding that the goal was always fundraising to put on an event. And with me, fundraising became a byproduct of what I really wanted to do, which was bring people together and build high morale so that we could accomplish a lot together because we were united in high morale and a sense of purpose and a sense of goals. And it did make the environment way better overall for everybody. And then, I did it the next year and the next year. And at some point, folks who were in pretty high leadership positions, so I said management usually did these, and the folks that were now wanting to replicate what I was doing with their own groups, they were the manager's boss's boss's boss. and they were assigning high people who were in charge of 100 people already to do the same thing, and they couldn't because it was a top-down approach. You know, that they were appointed leaders, whereas the leader I was given to me by the folks that were doing the work. You know, no one appointed me a leader. They just saw me working, and then they offered to help, and then they would ask me how to carry out these tasks. And a lot of these folks are way smarter than me, what have you, but they trusted my decision making, and then they came to trust their own decision making, and some even bumped heads with me. Like, I disagreed, and like I said, if I thought it would be unbeneficial, then I would challenge it. And we did have that, and I lost some of those, and it went on to still be like epic events we put on. And then that brings me to the end of this, and that's another quote by Lao Tzu. So a lot of people have heard of The Art of War by Sun Tzu. He has a nephew that was also a military and political strategist, Lao Tzu. And Sun Tzu kind of mentored him, and he said, and this is my favorite definition of a leader. He said, when a leader, a real leader, has accomplished his goals, the people will say, we did it ourselves. And that's the problem I see, and why I don't get behind a lot of movements and what have you. It's because people are asking you to crown them the leader, or at least that's my impression, so that then they can go move this mountain. Instead of just moving it on their own, quietly, letting people, you know, see and learn from what they're doing and decide, hey, I could do that too. This guy doesn't have to do it for me. I can do that for myself. He's taught me with his example. And then they go do it. And then they set the example. And pretty soon, you do have a lot of people with high morale because they don't feel unheard. They don't feel silenced. They see that others feel the same way. And so that phrase or that belief that I really hope to become that type of leader, where when I'm done, the people say they did it themselves. They don't need to praise me. They don't need to give me kudos. And now I don't want some shady motherfucker coming along and saying he did it, because then the people can be deceived by him. And so, like, I don't need credit, but I also take issue with people who didn't do it taking credit for it. But if the people say they did it, that's the ideal. You shouldn't feel like you have to be the one that's acknowledged. You shouldn't feel like the people have to empower you first to go act. And you know, there's nonprofits here that are, you know, gaining a lot of power, and that was their whole MO. We got to build an army before we start advocating. And I'm like, in the meantime, people are getting left behind. People are getting screwed over, and you're silent about it because you're building your army. I'm just going to speak up about it, and hopefully people see that, you know, I'm advocating for them. You know, I'm advocating for them, and that they decide they're going to advocate for themselves. And when they do, and there's a lot of them, I move on to something else. You know, I move on to another issue to advocate on, and those issues are done. That's the people taking care of it. I don't even need to be there no more. I don't want to be there no more. I want to do stuff, empower folks, let them learn to do it for themselves, and then move on. Do something else with my life. That said, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope you have a blessed day, and I hope you end it in high spirits and you sleep well. And as my mom would say, que duermes con los angelitos. That when you sleep with little angels, which means it's a good sleep and you're happy. Much love, everybody.